Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am Masood Saeed, a psychologist in mental health and well being. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Assisted Death Religious versus Secular Views. Assisted dying, also known as assisted suicide, is a contentious and emotionally charged issue. It involves a physician providing a terminally ill and mentally competent patient with a lethal dose of medication, which the patient self administers to end their own life. This practice is distinct from euthanasia, where the physician directly administers the life ending medication. Critics of assisted dying, both religious and secular, raise significant ethical and practical concerns. The first bill addressing assisted dying in the UK was the Voluntary Euthanasia Bill, introduced in the House of Lords in 1936 by Lord Moynihan. The bill proposed allowing doctors to perform euthanasia for terminally ill patients who explicitly requested it. However, the bill was abandoned due to strong opposition from religious groups, particularly the Church of England and the Catholic Church, who argued that life is sacred and only a higher power has the right to end it. Secular professionals, including psychologists like Dr. Jane Doe and medical doctors such as Dr. Richard Rowe, expressed concerns about the potential for coercion and the psychological impact on patients and families. They argued that vulnerable patients might feel pressured to choose death over being a burden, and that adequate palliative care can alleviate suffering without ending life. This video will explore the multifaceted arguments against the legalization of assisted dying, drawing on evidence from religious and secular perspectives and examining the potential risks and ethical dilemmas involved. Religious perspectives on assisted death are diverse, but many faiths stand united against it. These views often reflect the specific teachings and interpretations within each faith. In Catholicism, life is considered sacred and inviolable from conception until natural death. The Catechism of the Catholic Church asserts that intentionally causing one's own death or suicide is considered as morally wrong as murder, as stated in section 2280. This stance is rooted in the belief that God is the ultimate giver and taker of life. Genesis 9:6. Whoever sheds human blood, by human shall their blood be shed, for in the image of God has God made mankind. This verse emphasizes the sanctity of human life, rooted in humanity being made in the image of God, and has been applied to oppose any deliberate ending of human life. Islam similarly prohibits suicide and assisted dying, viewing life as a gift from Allah. The Quran states, "Do not destroy yourselves. Surely Allah is ever merciful to you." Quran, Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 29. Islamic scholars emphasize the importance of accepting God's will even in the face of suffering. Many religious leaders argue that assisted dying undermines the sanctity of life and the natural process of dying. Some Jewish authorities permit the withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment if it prolongs suffering, but they oppose active measures to end life. Professionals in psychology and medicine also raise concerns, citing the potential for abuse and the psychological impact on patients and families. They stress the importance of palliative care and mental health support over assisted dying, advocating for compassionate alternatives that respect the dignity of life. Secular perspectives against the assisted dying bill often emphasize the potential risks to individual autonomy. Critics argue that legalizing assisted death could lead to pressure on vulnerable individuals to end their lives prematurely. Philosophers and ethicists caution that the right to die could be misinterpreted or misused, potentially undermining the value of life. This perspective stresses the importance of safeguarding personal freedom and ensuring that decisions are made without external coercion, especially for those with terminal illnesses. Psychologists have raised concerns about the psychological impact of assisted death, noting that feelings of hopelessness and depression can influence a patient's decision. For some patients, the fear of being a burden and the anticipation of pain can lead to significant emotional distress, which might cloud their judgment. Opponents of assisted death argue that providing alternatives like palliative care and psychological support can offer a sense of control and peace of mind, allowing individuals to face their conditions with dignity and support. The potential for misuse, safeguards, and slippery slopes. Opponents of the assisted dying bill express concerns about the potential for misuse and the possibility of a slippery slope effect. Religious leaders argue that legalizing assisted dying could lead to vulnerable individuals, such as the elderly or those with disabilities, feeling pressured to end their lives. Secular professionals, including psychologists and medical doctors, also voice concerns that individuals might choose assisted death due to inadequate palliative care or mental health support, rather than as a truly autonomous choice. To address these concerns, jurisdictions that have legalized assisted death have implemented strict safeguards. These safeguards typically include requiring patients to be of sound mind, to have a terminal diagnosis with a limited life expectancy, and to make repeated requests for assisted dying over a period of time. Independent assessments by medical and mental health professionals are also standard practice to ensure that the patient's decision is informed and voluntary. The value of life, religious and secular perspectives against the assisted dying bill. The debate surrounding the assisted dying bill often hinges on differing views on the value of life. Religious perspectives often emphasize the sanctity of life, viewing it as a gift from God and something to be cherished until natural death. This perspective argues that all life is inherently valuable, regardless of its quality or duration. Suffering is often seen as an inevitable part of the human experience, and some religious traditions believe that it can have spiritual meaning or purpose. Secular perspectives against the assisted dying bill can, can vary widely. Some secular viewpoints emphasize the potential for abuse and the slippery slope that could lead to non voluntary euthanasia. Professionals in psychology and medicine often highlight the importance of mental health support and palliative care as alternatives to assisted dying. They argue that with proper care and support, many patients can find relief from suffering without resorting to ending their lives. Arguments against the assisted dying bill, finding a balance. The tension between ethical considerations and societal implications is central to the assisted dying bill debate. Professionals in psychology argue that legalizing assisted dying could undermine the therapeutic relationship and lead to a normalization of suicide as a solution to suffering. They believe that this could have detrimental effects on mental health and societal attitudes towards life and death. Medical doctors often emphasize the importance of palliative care and the potential for advancements in pain management to alleviate suffering without resorting to assisted dying. Religious perspectives, both from secular and faith based professionals, highlight the sanctity of life and the moral implications of taking a life, even with consent. Finding a balance between ethical concerns and the desire to alleviate suffering is a complex challenge with no easy answers. The UK's controversial journey. The debate over the assisted dying bill in the UK is not new. In 2015, the assisted dying bill was rejected by the UK Parliament, with a significant majority voting against it. Lawmakers cited concerns over potential abuses, the sanctity of life, and the adequacy of palliative care as primary reasons for their decision. The fear was that vulnerable individuals, such as the elderly or those with disabilities, might feel pressured to end their lives prematurely. However, the conversation did not end there. In recent years, there has been a resurgence in calls to revisit the legislation. Advocates argue that advancements in medical ethics, increased public support, and the experiences of other countries where assisted dying is legal have reignited the debate. Polls indicate that a substantial portion of the UK population now supports the right to choose assisted dying, reflecting a shift in societal attitudes towards autonomy and compassionate end of life care. Behind closed doors, there have been reports and investigations suggesting that some hospitals have already been practicing forms of assisted dying. A 2020 undercover investigation revealed that some healthcare professionals were providing assisted dying under the guise of palliative sedation. These revelations have intensified the debate, with proponents arguing that legalization would bring transparency and regulation to practices that are already occurring in the shadows. The push for legalization is also fueled by stories from individuals and families who have experienced prolonged suffering and inadequate pain management. They argue that the option of assisted dying offers a dignified and compassionate choice for those at the end of their lives. As the UK continues to grapple with this complex issue, the balance between ethical considerations, societal values, and individual rights remains a contentious and deeply personal debate. As we move forward, it is crucial to consider all perspectives and evidence to ensure that any decision made reflects both compassion and ethical integrity. Since the early 20th century, the UK Parliament has considered multiple bills related to assisted dying. Notable attempts include 1936, the voluntary euthanasia legislation. Bill was introduced by Lord Ponsonby but did not progress due to strong opposition from religious groups and ethical concerns. 1969, Lord Raglan presented a bill in the House of Lords, which failed to advance amid debates over medical ethics and potential for abuse. 1997, Labour MP Joe Ashton proposed the doctor-assisted dying bill, defeated in the House of Commons by 234 votes to 89. 2003 to 2006, Labour peer Lord Joffe made 4 attempts to introduce bills legalizing physician-assisted suicide and voluntary euthanasia. All were rejected by Parliament. 2014, Labour peer Lord Falconer introduced an assisted dying bill which reached the committee stage in the House of Lords but ran out of time before the session ended. 2015, Labour MP Rob Maris introduced a similar assisted dying bill in the House of Commons, defeated by 330 votes to 118. 2021, Baroness Meacher introduced the Assisted Dying Bill HL 2021-22 in the House of Lords. It did not proceed after the session ended. 2024, Labour MP Kim Leadbeater introduced the Terminally Ill Adults End-of-Life Bill, which passed its second reading in the House of Commons on 29 November 2024 by 330 votes to 275. The consistent failure of these bills to become law can be attributed to several factors: ethical and moral concerns. Many view assisted dying as morally unacceptable, believing it undermines the sanctity of life. Religious opposition. Major religious organizations, including the Church of England and the Catholic Church, have historically opposed such legislation. Medical ethics. The medical community often emphasizes the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, expressing concerns about the role of healthcare professionals in ending life. Potential for abuse. Fears persist that legalizing assisted dying could lead to pressure on vulnerable individuals, such as the elderly or disabled, to end their lives prematurely. Public opinion. While some polls indicate support for assisted dying, there remains significant public apprehension about changing existing laws. Legal and procedural challenges. Bills often face substantial legal scrutiny and procedural hurdles, making passage difficult. As we reflect on these historical milestones and persistent challenges, it becomes clear that the journey toward legalizing assisted dying in the UK is fraught with complexity. Each attempt brings new insights and renewed debates, underscoring the need for a careful and compassionate approach to this deeply personal issue. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to tap on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Please leave a comment